These real haunted objects are so evil that Ed and Lorraine Warren lock them away to protect people from being cursed or harmed by them. The Raggedy Ann doll that turned into Annabelle. It started with a young nurse finding an innocent gift from her mother sitting in her apartment, a vintage Raggedy Ann doll. But within weeks, that doll went from cute to horrifying. It moved on its own, it shifted positions, it left handwritten notes on parchment paper, except nobody in the apartment owned parchment paper. But the most chilling moment came when the doll was found standing upright, leaning menacingly against a chair, with what looked like drops of red liquid smeared across its fabric hands and chest. That doll became infamous as Annabelle. Now, the Warrens, after investigating, believed it wasn't just haunted, it was a conduit for something demonic. They said a malevolent, inhuman spirit was using the doll as a disguise to get closer to people. During one encounter, a friend of the doll's owner mocked it, daring it to do its worst. That night, he reportedly dreamed of the doll crawling onto his chest and basically getting a hold of his neck. Now, hours later, he actually passed away in a violent motorcycle accident. The Warrens didn't waste any time. They brought Annabelle back to their museum in Monroe, Connecticut, but even there, she remained active. Visitors who taunted her inside the glass case often met with sudden accidents afterwards. Now, one man banged on the glass and laughed at the warnings posted. On his way home, he lost control of his motorcycle and passed away instantly. His girlfriend survived, but she later swore he had been laughing about Annabelle seconds before the crash. Even Ed and Lorraine admitted Annabelle was one of the most dangerous objects they had ever kept. The doll is locked behind glass, surrounded by protective prayers, with a bold warning label that says positively do not open. The cursed wedding dress of Anna Baker. Imagine being so heartbroken in life that your spirit clings to a wedding dress for eternity. That's exactly what happened with Anna Baker in the 1800s, and her gown is still said to be haunted to this day. Anna came from a very wealthy Pennsylvania family. She fell in love with a steel worker and planned to marry him, even buying a lavish white wedding gown for the big day. But her father, Elias Baker, forbid the marriage. Now, Anna was forced to live out her single and bitter life, and she passed away never wearing her dream dress. But here's where the horror begins. The dress that's now displayed at the Baker Mansion Museum in Altoona seems alive. Visitors have sworn the dress moves inside its sealed glass case. Sometimes late at night, it is seen swaying gently as if being twirled by a bride who never got her wedding dance. Other times, it thrashes violently, almost as though an unseen force is raging against the injustice of Anna's stolen love. Local reports say that in the 1970s, security guards at the museum refused to do overnight shifts in the room with the dress. One even quit on the spot, claiming he heard sobbing and banging from the case in the middle of the night. Others said they saw a very shadowy woman figure, reflected in the glass, staring back at them with hollow eyes. The Warrens, though never the original keepers of the gown, investigated it as part of their haunted objects cases. They claimed the energy surrounding the dress wasn't residual, it was interactive. Lorraine Warren once described it as a restless spirit refusing to let go of earthly pain. The shadow doll that visits you in your dreams. Now, the shadow doll doesn't just scare you when you look at it, it follows you right into your sleep. This doll, once kept in the Warrens Occult Museum, is considered one of the darkest objects they ever handled. The story goes that this eerie figure was constructed by something deep into black magic rituals. It was pieced together using real human bones and animal parts, including bird claws, and designed to channel pure malevolence. Now, its stitched face and lifeless eyes were meant to frighten, but the true terror was its alleged power. People who came in contact with the shadow doll often claimed it entered their dreams. But these weren't just nightmares, they were violent, like really crazy experiences. Victims reported being asphyxiated in their sleep by an invisible force. Some said they woke up with scratches and bruises as if the dream had manifested physically. Now, the Warrens believed the doll was used in rituals to curse enemies, delivering night terrors that could eventually stop someone's heart. Now, what makes this doll especially disturbing is that even a photograph of it is said to hold a lot of power. Lorraine Warren warned that simply gazing too long at the doll's image could invite its presence into your subconscious. Now, this isn't just folklore. The fear was so widespread that when it was displayed in their museum, it had to be kept inside a locked glass case, bound in protective prayers. One account involved a young man who mocked the idea of the doll. After looking at it closely, he began suffering from night terrors so severe he actually refused to sleep. Days later, he then suffered a heart attack and passed away in his 30s. Doctors couldn't explain it, but the Warrens were convinced the shadow doll had claimed yet another victim. The doll remains one of the few objects that the Warrens said they couldn't neutralize, but only contain. The Conjuring mirror that showed something looking back. Now, not all mirrors show your reflection or just your reflection. Some, like the Conjuring mirror, show something far darker. This object came into the Warrens' possession after being used in a ritual of catopatromancy, I think I'm saying that right, an ancient form of divination that involves summoning spirits through mirrors. Now, the mirror was reportedly used by occult practitioners who believed they could contact the deceased. Now, instead, they unleashed something terrifying. Witnesses described the mirror as alive, reflecting faces that weren't actually in the room, sometimes with twisted, decayed features. People who stared too long into it often reported losing a sense of time in general, or just standing motionless for hours as if they were hypnotized. Others swore that after looking into the mirror, dark shapes began to appear in their homes, following them into corners, watching silently. One chilling account involved a man who claimed he saw his own corpse staring back at him from the glass. Now, days later, he actually suffered a fatal accident eerily similar to what he had described. Another visitor swore she saw hands pressing out from the inside of the mirror as if something was trapped within it, desperate to escape. The Warrens labeled the Conjuring mirror as one of the most cursed items in their collection. They warned that using it was like opening a doorway that you just couldn't shut. Even Ed Warren admitted he refused to stare into it for fear of bringing something back with him. Now, at the museum, the mirror had to be covered in a very heavy cloth whenever not on display. I mean, Lorraine insisted that even brief exposure could infect a person with lingering paranormal energy. To this day, many people refuse to even look at photographs of it. That's how scary it is. The Satanic idol unearthed in the Connecticut woods. Now, in 1991, the Warrens discovered one of their most disturbing objects, not in a house, but buried deep in the woods. It was a crude, hand-carved idol shaped like a horned figure standing less than 2 feet tall. Now, the idol was believed to have been used in satanic rituals, and according to the Warrens, it carried a very dangerous aura of evil. Local police had discovered it after reports of strange animal mutilations and cult activity in the Connecticut forest. When the Warrens were called in, they immediately sensed it wasn't just a statue. Ed described the air around it as charged with something oppressive, like the forest itself was basically holding its breath. People who touched the idol often reported sudden sickness, dizziness, or even sometimes violent thoughts. Some became physically aggressive, lashing out for no reason at all. Now, Lorraine claims she saw shadowy figures circling the idol during their investigation, vanishing whenever she tried to focus on them. But the most chilling story comes from a man who accidentally stumbled across the idol before it was taken away. He later described hearing voices whispering his name in the woods, urging him to come a little closer. When he refused, he felt himself shoved violently to the ground, although no one was actually there. Now, afterward, he suffered months of torment. Paranormal activity followed him home, with objects flying off the shelves and dark figures appearing at his bedside. The idol was eventually locked away in the Warrens Occult Museum, sealed under prayer, and never ever allowed to be displayed without strict spiritual protection. Ed and Lorraine believed it was connected to ongoing satanic activity and warned that its purpose was never benign. It was created as a vessel of worship for dark forces. Even now, it remains one of the most mysterious artifacts they ever collected. So which haunted object would scare you the most if you were in close proximity to it? Let me know. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Ashley. I'll see you next time. Prisons are built to break people, but in Pennsylvania, some prisons never stop breaking them even after their passing. Shadows creep across abandoned cell blocks, disembodied voices scream in the silence, and the countless visitors swear they felt the touch of something that should no longer exist. These are the haunted prisons in Pennsylvania that chill you to the bone. Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia. Now imagine standing in a long, cold corridor, the paint peeling from the walls, the silence so heavy it presses against your chest. Suddenly you hear footsteps echoing, but when you turn, no one's there. That's Eastern State Penitentiary, one of the most haunted prisons in the world. Built in 1829, this Gothic fortress pioneered the Pennsylvania system of total isolation. Prisoners were locked in tiny stone cells, forbidden to speak, forbidden to even see one another. The goal was penitence. Now, the result was madness. Now, visitors and guards reported hearing screams at night, even back in the 1800s. Inmates clawed at their walls, basically talked to themselves and collapsed into silence, and those who resisted met punishment straight out of a nightmare. The